Buster Olney went on WEEI today with the Rich and Ken show with Ted Johnson, and he reported on the latest craziness that he's hearing surrounding the Red Sox.
The Red Sox are looking aggressively, and the Red Sox are kind of, on their own in that regard. And then I heard last week from a couple teams that they were signaling that they're willing to take on money. Today I talked to someone with another team who told me that it's to the degree that the Red Sox ownership has gotten involved. One of the Red Sox ownership group is actually calling around and trying to grease the skids to do something to add a right-handed bat, which, all of it. Of course, I've gotten two reactions to all of this from other teams. One, which is, why didn't you just offer Alex Bregman more money in the wintertime?
Yep. Right.
And the second thing was, and then the second reaction was like, man, they are desperate.
Well, they're desperate, but also, doesn't that sound like they're kind of stepping on Craig Breslow's toes there? You start thinking, what does this mean for Craig Breslow? Well, Tim Healy of the Boston Globe had this a few hours later. The Red Sox are not considering firing Chief Baseball Officer Craig Breslow, a team source said Monday night. Further amid the team's underperformance and speculation that Breslow may be on the hot seat, the club's ownership hierarchy has not even discussed making a change, the source said. All right, we got Michael Hurley joining us as well here. And again, so you hear Buster Olney say that, and you start thinking, okay, well, who's calling around from ownership that's talking about adding the bat? That's the GM. That's the president of baseball operations. That's his job. So that comes out. Michael Hurley, is it a coincidence that a few hours later we get a source close to the team? And you got to think also about, who could that, what level do you have to be at as a source to say that Craig Breslow is safe? What do you make of both?
Just to not even discuss it, I don't know how that's a real situation that can be believed, because if it hasn't been discussed, then there are multiple people up and down the organization not doing their jobs. And I just feel like if there's no way, no matter what you say, it's just not an acceptable place for the Boston Red Sox to be right now, to be 10 games under 500. You can't look at this roster and say, oh man, you caught some really bad breaks there. You can't lean on a Roman Anthony injury and say that's the reason this team's 10 games under 500. This team has good pitching. We know that. And like you said, tonight, it's almost not worth watching when the Red Sox come to bat. It's almost like worth go doing the dishes, go outside and do some yard work, come back when the other team's up. That's the only time you might see a run scored. So if you haven't discussed it and you're the Boston Red Sox with this kind of payroll, this kind of dedication, this kind of attendance, to roll out a roster this bad and not discuss the status of the man running the team, I don't know that I can believe that.
Well, Hurley and Giles, I want to get you both on this. Give me some thoughtful speculation. Maybe, Giles, start with you. Why do you think they haven't considered, according to Tim Healy, they haven't even considered firing Craig Breslow? Why not? Why do you think?
Because they're looking at it and there might be a labor stoppage next year. So what are you going to do? Fire the GM and then try to take the next guy who's way on the list? Because Craig Breslow was how far down the list when they made the hire? Reportedly something like 12th, right?
10, 11, 12, somewhere deep.
Maybe they're considering, we don't know. We don't even know who we're going to be able to get to do this job. And is it worth, maybe they look at it and say, is it worth it? Or financially, can you save some money if you don't make the move, if there's going to be a labor stoppage next year with all this talk about the new CBA, Hurley?
I just wonder, because Theo Epstein joined Fenway Sports Group, 2 years ago, 3 years ago? I don't even remember. You heard from him 0 times until about 3 weeks ago, when all of a sudden he's like, hey, I was just watching the Red Sox. Here's what I think about the Red Sox. And then that story comes out in the Globe last week that doesn't look good for Breslow. So I don't know that this feels more like the dreaded vote of confidence that comes before the vote.
And let me say that, Michael Holley. Do you really believe this? Do you really believe that? Do you think Craig Breslow is going to be the GM through the end of the season?
I kind of think he will. But this is no validation or endorsement on my part of Craig Breslow. It's more the lack of belief I have in the Red Sox right now. How would you allow this story to be out? You told Tim Healy didn't make this up. Somebody said to him, it would be fine, I guess. The vote of confidence, Hurley and Giles, would be, hey, we're not considering firing Breslow right now. That's good. Say that. Say less. All right, we're not considering. We're not going to fire him. But to say, we're not even considering it, that's the extra. Why did you add that? They wanted him to put that in the story. Why? That is a Red Sox problem. That's not a Craig Breslow problem. That's above Craig Breslow, where they want to be emphatic. Oh, why? Let's just kill this speculation right now. We haven't even thought about it. Hurley, you're right. The fact that they haven't even thought about it tells you that they're not doing their job.
But they have had to have thought about it. Like there's no way. I mean, maybe the other reason too is, all right, you got rid of the manager, Michael Hurley. You got rid of the manager. Then you get rid of the president of baseball operations. Like, what's next? What other move can you make there to say this is why things are going wrong?
Well, that's what my question is, back to you guys. Who do you think it is that would be having these discussions? We know Sam Kennedy is always sort of front and center, the face for the team to speak for ownership, to speak for the franchise. He isn't running the baseball operations the way that Larry Lucchino used to. John Henry, I don't think is as hands-on and intense with this. He's got so many different businesses. I don't know who's having this conversation. I don't know who's even saying, Craig, you're fired. We don't like the job you're doing. We're going to bring in so-and-so, because I don't know how the top of the organization works anymore, because you don't have a very clear top of the hierarchy. You have a chief baseball officer, but you don't have the president of baseball operations the way that you would expect. I don't know who's holding that conversation.
I think I do. I mean, based on your breakdown there, that person would have to be Sam Kennedy, because I don't think John Henry is going to be calling Tim Healy, and I don't think John Henry also is going to be calling these other teams saying we need a right-handed bat. And I'll be fair here. Ownership calling or an ownership representative calling other teams looking for a right-handed bat, you know what that might tell you? That this is a big contract deal. Because ownership, either you got a meddling owner who's going to be calling about a guy making $7 million a year, or you got an owner calling saying, hey, this is a huge contract, and this is so big that it's above our general manager. He's not able to sign off on it because the numbers are outrageous. We're calling.
Look, right? Yeah, but it didn't.
That's being.
It didn't feel like it was communicated that way. But if that's the situation, they're in much better shape than the way this is playing out, right?
That would be that's an optimistic take, but that is a possibility. I'm not saying it's likely, but that is one reason for an owner to be making phone calls, because the deal is somebody's got 6 or 7 years left on their contract, and you need ownership to come in and say, all right, this is how we can make this deal.
I believe, too, last year, John Henry got involved with the Devers situation because it involved taking the entire contract, and that was sort of the centerpiece of the deal, was the Giants taking that all on. So now if it were to come in reverse order, it's just another case of the philosophy just completely flip-flopping one year to the next based on the way the wind's blowing.